What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome to the NBA Draft Special. Listen, we have a fun show for you tonight. I promise you're going to see a lot of people that you recognize. There's some that you're going to know, but they're going to kind of wow you a little bit. But tonight's all about the NBA Draft. We're going to get into a lot of what this looks like, and we're talking about different teams. We're going to be talking about different players. We're going to see how they kind of relate to maybe the team that they could potentially go to. And then after the picks, we're going to make sure we kind of wrap it all up on a bow and make it look real nice for you. And we're going to let our guys, Chip and Ryan, talk you through that. But first things first, you know I got my main guy here. Listen, he's looking dapper tonight, and the draft's about to start. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Yo, Nate. What up?
This whole thing?
Looking good, buddy. Looking good.
Big draft guy, baby.
All right, so tonight, obviously, it's getting started. Listen, I clicked it off already. What's happening with this stupid thing?
Music never works.
Yeah, literally. I clicked it the right way, and then I turned off the thing, but whatever. All right, so listen, we're looking like we're getting the draft started here. I have it on my screen, so if I'm looking down this way, I'm looking at the little bit of the draft, but we're going to have a fun time for you tonight. Listen, me and Nate are going to be your palate cleanser. So we're going to be talking about the different guys in the draft, and then we're going to go to Ryan and Chip to actually give you the analysis. So there's no reason to not have fun tonight. I promise you, I have zero idea what Nate is going to talk about. And honestly, I think Nate has zero idea what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I have no clue. All I know is it will almost certainly be visceral, whatever it is. It'll be fun.
Yep, for sure. Hey, listen, it's going to be a fun time. We have so many people back from the postseason shows. We're seeing Rusty Witt and Desert Squirrel and our guy Wayno. Listen, he's already sweating like a lizard in the sun. Nate is sweating already. There's nothing better than his analogies or puns or whatever you call those things. But tonight we have a lot that we're going to show you, a lot of graphics. And so let's go ahead and get to one of our graphics already. And so this is going to be a little bit of the trade alert. I believe we have it. All right. So this is the trade. I believe it was the latest trade right here. So Nate, we're looking at this. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon going from Portland to Washington, as well as the 14th pick tonight. The 2029 first-round pick, and then 2 second-round picks for Danny Avdija. So anything that you love or hate about that trade there?
I hate it for Sean Coleman specifically. More than anything, Sean and Ryan, I know, are both going to be upset about that. Honestly, when it's Washington and Portland at this point, there's nothing to love, regardless of what the move is. That's one of those things where I'm like, okay, cool. That happened. I don't think it's bad for either team. It's just it's Portland and Washington. So, okay, cool. Neat.
Danny Avdija would have been a good asset to the Grizzlies team if you're looking at the Grizzlies just in general. But realistically, I don't think he was ever going to be a get for this team in particular. But I believe that he would have helped. I just don't think he was ever a real get. But we're looking like we're getting started here, and we have Atlanta about to be on the clock soon. I'm trying to watch and see if we can time it up just a tiny bit and kind of see how we're doing it. But listen, we have all the notifications on. We're going to make sure we kind of keep you up to breast of what we actually have. And we're going to try to make sure that we're bringing you all the content that you love. But forgive us a second. We're going to kind of look through a little bit of what we have. And before we kind of get into bringing in our friends, the smarter people, they might not look as good, but they're smart. Let's go ahead and look at their draft board here. And obviously, we're looking at the Chip and Ryan's draft board. And so looking through this, we do have, Ron Holland both at the top of the board, which is kind of shocking on that sense, right? So you do have Ron Holland there, and then Reed Shepherd, and then Alex Sarr. All right, so we're going to bring in Chip there, and here comes another guy that you all know and love, and that is Ryan. So Chip, let's go to you first. Looking at your board here, would it surprise you for anybody else other than probably Rishashar to come off the board first, even though he's not really even on your top one of your guys?
Yeah, it would not surprise me. That kind of seems like the way that the Hawks have been going for a little while. It was Alex Sarr right around lottery night, but ever since then, it's just trended towards Zachary Reese-Shea. I'm a little lower on him than the consensus. I think he's a good prospect, but not a guy that I would typically consider for the number one pick. But I think, like we've talked about a bunch, this is a draft where beauty's kind of in the eye of the beholder. And so with Atlanta, they locked in on Reese-Shea, and that's what they're going to do, it seems like. So, yeah.
Yeah, going back to this board, I do believe that Reese-Shea is going to be one of the guys that's going to leave. If he's not first, I expect him to definitely fall maybe to fourth to San Antonio, and he could even slide there at that point. So there could be a big slide for him. I think it's very wide open whether he goes first or he would drop down to the 5 or 6. But Ryan, let's go over to you real quick and looking at that. Anybody that you're looking at other than Reese-Shea that's actually going to jump off the board here first?
I think this late in the game when Woj says something about reports and they're zeroing in on somebody, you just take that as gospel at this point. And we're respecters of the betting market. And when that moves this close to draft time and Woj says the zeroing in, they probably are going to take Reese-Shea. Like Chip, he's not my favorite prospect in this draft. We both love Ron Holland, but it's a swing for Atlanta. He's not, to me, like a top he's not a huge guy that could be a star, right? But he could be a potential 3-and-D wing for them that could kind of fill the holes if they decide to keep Trey and DeJounte. So it'll be interesting to see how it fits, especially DeAndre Hunter around.
My God, my mute button is like a double click. And so if I don't double click it, it doesn't come through. So I apologize. I'm going to fix it. Okay.
You're 2 for 2.
Yeah, it's been bad. All right, so the pick is in as what we're looking at right here. I'm trying to find what I need to show up on the screen, but I obviously there's nobody else that we would expect to come off as Reese-Shea right here. But does that fit? Just talking through that, Chip, is that a good fit? Is that a good decision that Atlanta potentially could be making? And honestly, it's not very surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, they have some big decisions to make, right? Like, they've got to figure out what they're doing with their backcourt. Are they keeping Trey and DeJounte? Are they going to trade one or both of them? This is probably not the draft where you want to pick a guy and then choose to build around that guy, especially if you're going to take Reese-Shea. So I think he does fit in terms of like the floor spacing 3-and-D guy with size, that if you're going to keep Trey or DeJounte, one of them, you want to add as much spacing around those two guys as you possibly can get. So, yeah, I think like from a team fit perspective, Reese-Shea does make sense for them. And he's the profile that, teams want. 3-and-D wings get paid a lot of money in the NBA. And I think for me with Reese-Shea, what I think of the weakness and something I don't really buy is just the on-ball creation. Will he ever be able to do that? But if he's playing next to Trey, he's got the guy that'll handle all that.
Yeah, Trey is actually, somebody that you want around, but at what point do they eventually move on from somebody that, you're talking about guys that they could make a move because there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made. I think at this point, the pick potentially being, and we're kind of all seeing, the writing on the wall at this point, where it could be Reese-Shea, where now we're looking at keeping Clint Capella there in Atlanta. And so anything that you have on that, Ryan, because I think that this actually helps them in a win now mode, but does this mean that Atlanta does more, or is this it?
Well, I guess it's just kind of how they view Trey and DeJounte going forward for me, right? Zachary is not like a plug and play guy right now. Like, he's kind of a future guy that may hit in a couple years.
All right, Ryan, we're going live real quick.
Zachary Reese-Shea.
Is it Reese-Shea this whole time?
I've heard multiple different things. I have no idea. But
There's no way.
Adam Silver.
That's the first time I've ever heard Zachary Reese-Shea. I've never heard that. I've never heard that. Where does that come from? I've heard Reese-Shea, but I've never heard whatever he just said. So, Ryan, quick, give me 10 seconds on this pick. Anything that you like, or actually, you know what, Chip, give me 10 seconds on it. Anything that you like about this? We talked about it, but is this a good fit for Atlanta?
Yeah, I think you take the swing on the guy with the size and hope that you can develop the creation, because I believe in him as a defender and a shot maker. And if they can add that last element, then they may end up with the best player in this draft.
Wow, that's big. All right, Ryan, coming back to you. Give us your thoughts on this, because we're looking at this clip right here of Rishashar, whatever the hell his name is. What's your thoughts on him and how he can be good for Atlanta?
So he's used to a role, which I think is maybe one of the things that Atlanta kind of liked about him, right? Like he had a lull during the middle of the year where he was just shooting the three ball very poorly, and people soured on him. That's where you saw his draft start to fall. Like, is this guy an actually lottery guy? And then he came on really strong towards the end of the season and had a really nice playoffs. I think he averaged about 10 points per game this season for them. But a French player, they play roles. And Atlanta seems like they're going with a guy who has great positional, like elite positional length, like you see, and will fit around someone like Trey, or hopefully fit around someone like Trey and DeJounte, where he can stay in the corner, shoot threes, hopefully be that defensive versatility type player that they need on the perimeter.
Yeah, he obviously is the 3-and-D guy. He's the guy that you like to kind of, be that player. So we're definitely going to look at him, and obviously going, into the first pick overall, that's big. And he was not that guy that we expected to go first literally a month ago. There was no shot. He was actually on your board to fall. And so I'm surprised at this. And this isn't a pick that I would have made if I would have been in the front office, but I think it's a good pick overall, because it does have the upside. The problem is Atlanta's ready to win now. I just don't know if he's a player that's ready to win. Ryan, is he ready in your mind to be on a contending team going, next year?
No, this is why it's interesting. You say Atlanta's ready to win now. I mean, are they? Like, I don't even think they made it out of the 9-10 seed, right, in the play-in. So I think they're just at a crossroads where they've got to pick an avenue, right? Like the Nets did that over the past couple of days. Like they're trying for 2 years to do something, and it's not working. So it's like, okay, let's pivot to something. Let's try to get all of our picks back and look to the future. The Hawks are kind of in the same situation. Like, do we choose between Trey and DeJounte? That's why we take Rizashare or Rizeshe, whatever Adam Silver said. And we look for maybe in 2 to 3 years and kind of retool around Jalen Johnson. I don't know, but it seems like the East is going more towards the Boston Celtics model, right? Like, you get a bunch of swing forwards that are versatile and then can switch, which I felt like every NBA team did, recently anyways. But it seems like the kind of starting point now is you've got to have 5 or 6 of those guys that are multi-positional. So this is what it feels like for the Hawks for me. The big question to me is, what are they doing next with their 2 kind of smaller guard combo?
Right, absolutely. All right, let's go look at the big board real quick, and we're going to kind of get Ryan out of here. But looking at here, we still have Ron Holland at the top, and so Reed Shepherd and as well as Sarr is hanging up here, and so I think it's very important to kind of look at these 2 guys and kind of see what direction we're going to go to next. Especially with the Wizards on the clock, we don't know much. But Nate, I'm going to come back to you real fast, because obviously that was a good pick from Atlanta. But what's your thoughts on that pick, but also moving forward to Washington?
Yeah, so I'm looking through my notes here, and I'm trying to see what I have. Oh, yeah, so for Atlanta and Washington, I have French. That's my analysis of those picks. No, listen, that sort of has been hinted that way. I think that Atlanta was in a spot where they were liable to fumble this pick. And jury's out. That guy may be awesome. Resacher. I'm not sure we ever landed on what it's actually supposed to be. But he could be absolutely awesome for them. You just don't know. If Atlanta is going to Atlanta, though, I have my doubts. But honestly, that's where I land. I mean, the Sarr thing's been headed towards Washington for a while. It says the pick is in. I hadn't actually come across the telly yet. But I'm
that quick, we kind of have an idea, right?
We pretty well know.
All right, so I got a quick question. Is there any truth to this from TJ Parker that I might be the greatest host in history? Any idea that could be true?
It could be, other than TJ obviously hasn't watched shows where you're gone, where then I become the best host in history.
True.
The greatest.
What
host.
about, all right, so Dan says, I'm a real one. I don't know. Like, I don't see any in here for you. And I was actually curious. Good evening, DG. I'm still looking through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Listen, if you
haven't
get
found
shadow
any.
banned from the show and you don't get on screen, it's hard, but it's okay. Like, I want you to get your shine. So I'm perfectly happy to be here. I've got the shiny tie. It's all good, man. It's all love here in the 901.
All right, so I have to give a shout out to the driving the line. Those are my guys. Listen, we're there pretty much every Monday through Friday, as well as the weekend. Sometimes Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. Those are the guys that I rock with. Probably the most. These are the true OGs. That have been with us. But all right, we're gonna come back to you, but we're gonna go back and look at it real quick. Looking at the draft board. Because honestly, it is something we're going to take a quick peek at while the pick is coming in.
NBA draft, the Washington Wizards select Alex Sarr from Toulouse, France, overtime elite and Australia's Wildcats of the NBL.
All right, we're going now to Chip and Ryan and looking at this. Obviously, we're looking at your big board available. And Ryan, your thoughts on with Sarr right there. Surprising at all?
No, I don't think it was surprising, especially with talk past couple of days, and Sarr's been interviewed at length already about not working out for the Atlanta Hawks. It seems like him and his agency were positioning for this. It's interesting, is there a connection with the Denny Avdija trade? Like, were they trying to open up a spot for him to play power forward? That seems like what he wants to do. He wants to be kind of like a big guard. So we'll see if that is what they're going with, but hey, it's an expected pick for the Washington Wizards.
Yep. Chip, back to you there with that. You like this pick because honestly, he was, tops on both your boards for sure.
Yeah, tier 1 guy for me, or highest tier in this draft, tier 2 for me. I think that this is exactly what you're looking for when you talk about a modern big, like possibility to switch. He can really protect the rim, covers a lot of ground on defense, really fluid mover for a guy that's his size. I think the big question for everybody is just, what does his offensive game look like? He struggled a lot playing in a professional league this past year in Australia. And I think that he's got a long way to go before he really is going to be an impactful guy on offense. But I really believe that he can step in day one and be an impactful defender in the NBA. And this is a swing. And this is, again, the kind of guy you look for in the playoffs that really can switch across positions and probably is never going to get played off the floor. So really nice pick here. If this had been the number 1 guy, I would have completely understood it. And at this point, the Washington Wizards just need as much talent as they can possibly get. And so really like this pick from them, and really interested to see kind of the development path for Sarr with them.
Yeah, no surprise here. Ryan, go ahead and put a bow on this. We have Meadows musings over here. So share a little bit of why you like just Sarr, just overall, just anything, your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I had him number 1 overall for the last couple weeks, and then just dropped him 1 spot for Holland, just because of, like Chip was saying, with the offensive stuff. Like, what does he really do, right? And you see that in my notes kind of there. A lot of time, I mean, it was early in the season. He played against G League Ignite, and a lot of his stuff was like trail threes, pick and pop kind of stuff. Wasn't really, banging in the post that you would think for a big guy, but he was doing stuff like rim running and alley-oops. So I think with Sarr, you're kind of hoping for the defensive upside first, and then maybe where Washington, where he can just get up shot after, well, maybe he gets up shot after Jordan Poole, but he develops an actual steady offensive game to complement with what his defensive ceiling could be. And if those two match up, it's a warranted number 2 pick, right? But I just a little cautious with him, with wanting to be a stretch 4. And he doesn't want to really, do the night-to-night work, which no one really does, right? But worst case scenario for the Wizards, they've got a 4 who hopefully in a few years can hit consistent threes and will be kind of an albatross roaming the paint, blocking shots on help side.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, Ryan, we'll be back to you in a second. And so we're going to look at the big board right here. And, it's obviously updated. We've lost, now Richard Char that was not on there, or however the hell you say his name now, Adam Silver. Screw you. I will say that we're going to call him whatever we want to, but going to over here back to Nate, obviously we're going to look at this and see Ron Holland is still up there, a little bit of a high upside play there. And so we're looking at now Reed Shepherd potentially going 3 and Nikola Topic over here for Ryan. But I think Reed Shepherd has been the play. And so, your thoughts on, just kind of Reed Shepherd potentially coming off the board here and looking back at that last pick where Sarr has been the best player in the draft. It's understood that he has been. Your thoughts on that pick for Washington?
What were my thoughts? Oh, yeah. French. No. I mean, I like the pick. Sort of like Chip and Ryan were saying, dude that was expected to go number 1 overall for a really long time, and that was for a reason, right? He's a talented guy, super big, super long, kind of guy that you would imagine fitting in anywhere and has really, really big upside. And for Washington, I mean, they just sold off Avia. They're going to go into a rebuild. Makes a ton of sense for me. So I like it, and I think probably we're going to have Reed Shepherd here go if I had to guess. That guy can shoot the lights out, and it's going to be kind of sad to see him play for the Rockets.
Yeah, Reed Shepherd been a very good player, just like Sarr. They've kind of both been, obviously highly touted. Sarr being the number 1 for most of the year, just in general. But now, Reed Shepherd, he skyrocketed up the board just like Stephon Castle did, and then Stephon Castle kind of fell back. But Reed Shepherd's kind of stayed up there. His size is a little bit of the issue, but who knows? It could have lingering long-term stuff, but for the most part, I think we're good. But all right, look like where the pick is in. Let's go ahead and get to it.
2024 NBA Draft. The Houston Rockets select Reed Shepherd.
All right, obviously not a big surprise there at all. We're going to Reed Shepherd there for the 3rd pick. Real quick, I'm gonna get your thoughts on it, and I'm gonna go to our so-called experts. So your thoughts on Reed Shepherd going number 3 to Houston?
I think it is a real good pick. Good pick for Houston there. I'm not worried about him defensively. He's small. There's plenty of small guards that are able to defend. They're uniquely unsuited for the Grizzlies. I think we have a negative portrayal of that because our lead guard superstar is small. But in general, he defends well for his size. Put him next to bigger guys, he's going to be fine, and he's going to shoot the lights out. So I think it's a really good pick for Houston. I think it fits really well and fits with what they've already got going there.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at a little bit of highlight film of Reed Shepherd here. And we're going to go ahead and kind of look at what he is. Dude, absolutely ripped. But he is, kind of a smaller guard, smaller guy. And Ryan, we'll go to you a little bit and share your thoughts on Reed Shepherd. Just quick thoughts on Reed Shepherd just overall.
Yeah, overall, he's the one that when I came on the show a couple weeks ago, he was at 10 on my big board, and that wasn't right. So I had to move him up. I think last I had him was 5. And, the big ding at first was the size, but the more you look at the numbers, the film, you're looking for maybe 15 to 20 guys a draft that can play for you, right? They're going to make it past their first contract. And Reed Shepherd's the guy who's going to make it past his first contract. So you might as well take him for the shooting alone and the athleticism that he showed.
Yeah. All right. So looking at through that, Chip, I'm going to go back to you now here. Your thoughts overall and just kind of wrap a bow up on this pick, because these are the 3 picks that we all thought were going to happen. Now it kind of gets a little bit interesting.
Yeah, Reed is one of my favorite guys in this class. I debated putting him number 1. I ended up having him number 2 in my highest tier in the draft. I think he's unequivocally the best shooter in this class. Obviously the size being a bit of a concern, but really active hands, creates a lot of turnovers on defense. And he can flat out just shoot the ball from on and off ball. The big question is going to be, is he a point guard long-term? What's that creation look like? But this is one of my favorite fits because last year the Rockets drafted a guy in Amen Thompson who is a very large point guard. And when you have him, he can handle a lot of the creation. Reed can space the floor, kind of be the secondary creator there. Really, really like this pick, and very unfortunate that the Grizzlies division just got a little bit better.
Yeah, they did. Do you expect him to be a starter at all there?
That's a crowded backcourt, honestly, with Jalen Green, Amen Thompson. Obviously, they paid Fred VanVleet a ton of money, so it may be tough for him immediately, but long-term, absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and look at this. We're looking at this draft board as well, looking at the best available here. And we're going to go ahead and bring in Nate real fast. But Nate, we're looking at this draft board now, and you see that obviously Ron Holland was still up there. Reed Sheppard is gone. And so we're starting to see a little bit of the interesting stuff that's going to happen. What excites you now going into this fourth pick? Because it should be Stephon Castle, because that's what the mocks say, but you still have the Klingon stuff there. You still have the French connection there with Wemby. So what direction you see who's it, San Antonio going?
I don't think they go Klingon. It just doesn't make much sense to me. I think if you're doing that, the vision is, okay, we're going to put Wemby at power forward and have a bit of a Twin Towers type thing. I'm just not sure that I buy that. I think they go more towards wing guard right here. There's a bunch of guards on the table that I think could still make sense for them. I think their biggest need is still at guard. I mean, they have guys like Vassell, Wemby to be able to build around, even Sochan, who I guess was a pseudo point guard for them sometimes. But I just don't buy the Twin Towers approach, so I think they go more guard here, maybe wing.
So not going back to the old school Spurs, we're going Twin Towers.
I don't think so. I think as old school as Pop is, that's a little too old school at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that stuck out about Reed that you love, because he was a guy, and I know I asked you about it before, but he is a guy that has been a white guy. And I've always said, stay away from the white Americans in the top 10. They never work out. He's a white American. Is he going to work out?
Well, in this draft, I'm cool with it. It's one of those drafts where I was trying to explain it a little bit earlier. There's not necessarily any great guys that just pop off the screen to you, right? There's guys with really high flashes of upside, but there's no like, this guy is top tier superstar. But there are a lot of good guys. And I think Sheppard is one of those really low floor guys that also has a bit of a higher ceiling, depending on the kind of shooter he becomes. So, yeah, I like it. I like that he has a high floor, but also has a little bit of ceiling. Anyone that can shoot that well, there's a place for you in the NBA, unless you just get the absolute yips when you get there. So
he makes up like 2% of the league. Jarrett wants to know, like, what's wrong with us white Americans? Listen, that makes up 2% of the league. That is the issue. But let's go back and look at the big board as the guys have. You're going to keep seeing Ron Holland, guys. That's just the truth to it, because our guys love Ron Holland, and he has the upside, and that's the biggest thing here. But we're going to go back to looking at this. And Chip, we got a little bit of your stuff here, and so talk to you a little bit more about your board. How is it shaping up? Is anything now that as you look into this fourth pick, what direction do you see it going?
Yeah, it seems like the mocks think it's going to be Castle, and that makes a lot of sense. I may end up looking a little silly for having Castle outside of my top 10, because I think a lot of guys are going to look really good when they play next to Wemby.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan, looking at this pick, we're about to be in. Give me about 10 seconds. He's walking up to the podium now.
I think Chip is right in that everybody looks good to Wemby, but the question will be, which we'll talk after, is he actually good?
Yep. You went 14 seconds. It's Stephon Castle going fourth overall to San Antonio. Listen, obviously it's so fast and it's so fast moving. But let's see, which one of you had Stephon Castle? Oh, it's Ryan. So Chip, give me about 20 seconds. 20 seconds on Stephon Castle before we pass it off to Ryan here.
Yeah, dog defender, just really gets after it on and off ball. A lot of questions about the offense. He thinks he's a point guard. I could see some of that creation stuff. I think he took a bit of a reduced role to help UConn win a title. So what's that going to look like as he expands out, and hopefully as the Spurs, at least they believe, point guard of the future with Wemby.
Yeah. All right, let's look at this. Ryan, go ahead and give me your breakdown of Stephon Castle.
Yeah, like Chip was alluding to, I mean, point of attack defensive potential. We saw that as a freshman for a championship winning team, which is rare, I feel like. So it's not like the Spurs need a ton of help on defense with Wemby, but if you can have a lockdown point of attack guy, obviously that helps your defense even more. But like Chip was saying, the offense is a huge question mark right before we went to the actual pick. It's like, is he actually good or not? Because now he's selling this idea that, well, I had to play this reduced role, but I'm actually a point guard. Is that selling yourself as an agency to get a higher contract? Is he Jimmy Butler, or is he more of like Justice Winslow? right?
Mm.
And so I think that's what we're going to find out. But I think the early returns for the Spurs are going to look really nice. And we're going to say, oh, it's the Jimmy Butler guy because of the Wemby factor, like Chip alluded to.
Yeah, Ryan, we'll come back to you at that. I love this player. I just hate it when he was wanting to be a point guard only. But looking through him, man, he was a good player just overall, and he was a guy that I think he was sought after, especially as they were going through the different drafts and stuff. So, Nate, we're going to come back to you here. Obviously, we're talking about Stephon Castle and looking at a lot of what he did. But just give us your immediate thoughts on that. We're heading into possible trade land because now Detroit is on the clock. So your thoughts on that last pick?
Fits like a glove. Big Spurs guy. Just seems to make sense, right? It's a guy who maybe he can shoot, maybe he can't. We're yet to see. But he's going to do all the other things, right? And in an organization like the Spurs, they always seem to be able to bring out the best in guys where they can do what they do best and they fill in the pieces around them. Fits really well with Wemby, being able to facilitate like that, is able to defend really well, longer guard. So that's going to be able to work for them really well also. Like I said, I think he just fits the Spurs. Even if it's a little bit higher than big board overall talent, I think in a draft like this, they went and got a guy that works for them. So I like the pick.
All right, let's go ahead and look back at the big board, and we'll obviously Ron Holland is going to be there, as we keep saying that, just because the upside is there for the guys just personally. But now we're looking at Nikola Topic and Tyler Smith, Collier. We don't even see Klingon on Ryan's board. He might have drank a lot that day. We're not exactly sure, but if you look over here, Klingon is looks like it's 5th overall on Chip's board of what's the best available. So just looking at that overall, I think that our guys are going to kind of prove us right that Klingon could be here. But, man, this draft could go so many different directions. So any trade you're thinking or anything on the Grizzlies side of things, because they've been rumored so much to move up to Detroit spot here?
Well, I said this last night on our little pre-draft night show, and the rumors started to reinstigate this today. A multiple of 3 is coming up next and a potential trade partner for the Grizzlies in Charlotte. So we are getting into that territory. I've not been the biggest fan of trade up in this draft, but we're getting to that territory where it probably wouldn't take the biggest haul ever to move up a few picks to get your guy. And they've never been afraid to make that happen. So we'll see what happens here. I think that they are starting to get into that realm of possibility. Or maybe Detroit decides they want Klingon and Jalen Duren is expendable.
Wow, that would be big. Let's go ahead and look at the draft board here. Looking through it, Dillingham could go Isaiah Collier, but as the guys know that they're loving on, Klingon as well, which has the potential. I'm just curious on whether or not what Detroit actually does. Let's go ahead and bring in our experts, as they say. Ryan is touching the sky. We're going to bring him back to the world. Ryan,
Bro,
excited? Not excited?
send me my money. Send it to me. 26-1. Pay me, DG. I gave DG earlier today.
Hold on. Nobody knows.
Okay.
Nobody
All
knows
right.
the pick. You're way ahead.
Sorry. I'm excited.
What is happening?
I'm so sorry. Did I say the person?
You did not say the person
Okay.
yet. But
What was the question?
the question was, why were you praying? Why were you praying? Why were you saying hallelujah? Because we saw that.
I can't tell you until the pick is announced.
We got our answer. Listen, it's not who Jarrett thinks it is, I believe. It's a different direction. But Chip, let's go to you real quick and just individually, because Ryan is losing his mind. So, Chip, your thoughts on what Detroit should do, since you don't know, and I know what Ryan's celebrating over there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have not seen the pick. I've done a good job of not having it spoiled for me. I mean, I think that, a wing makes a lot of sense for them. They've kind of had Matas Buzelis mocked to them a lot. There's obviously, Dalton Connect, our guy Ron Holland. Like, are they just going to continue to collect these wings that seem to fit pretty well with Cade Cunningham? Or, it's a new regime. Do they want to maybe move off of Jalen Duren and go with another big? So I'm fascinated. I'm very excited to see why Ryan is so excited.
All right, so obviously the pick is in. We're going to get to it in a second, but I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler alert, Chip, since you don't know. It's one of your guys, just so we're on the same page. So you're going to have to give the recap. I'm going to give Ryan first dibs because there's a reason he's celebrating, but I'm going to give you first dibs once the pick is completely announced and completely in. It looks like we're showing a bunch of highlights on Dillingham right now on the screen, and so I don't know if they know which direction they're going to go with this, but I'm trying to not give it away, Ryan, to Chip. I want Chip to see it himself of what actually happens.
Well, what's interesting is my past history with this. I'm 10 seconds behind everyone, right? I moved to a new urban, area, and I'm streaming on my phone beside me, and I'm 30 seconds or a minute before you guys. So, so yeah,
just saw
update. It. I've upgraded. So yeah, I'm excited.
All right, so the pick is in. Looks like he's walking to the actual board, so I'm a little behind.
With the 5th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Ron Holland II from Dallas,
wow.
Texas.
Send me my money, DG.
Listen, I actually just looked at my Venmo account. It's broken. I can't send anything back.
I'm filing a lien immediately.
All right, Ryan, going to you. How exhilarating, how awesome is that? That's a 26-1. That's big.
Woo! I wish I'd have just doubled down on that instead of the Tyler Smith one. So, but hey, what can you do? Money is money. No, Ron Holland, I think he's a fantastic player. I'd never really got the overthinking about him. This guy averaged 20 points for the G League. Sure, the G League team sucked. But everybody's like, oh, he can't create, he can't shoot, and all that stuff. Like, I don't know what you're watching. Like, yes, he's not a great shooter now, but the create thing, all he did was create chances for his team. It's not his fault the team sucked. So I think he has the same kind of defensive potential. Will the shooting get there? Maybe, maybe not. But it's a guy where I'm trying to find someone who's going to play on my team and in the league for a long time. He's going to play on a team, be on the league for a long time. So I don't need to say any more. It's Chip's turn.
Chip, go ahead and break it down a little bit about Ron Holland and why you love him so much.
My guy, the number 1 pick in the draft for me, the best prospect in this class. An absolute, I have my first bullet point there, a basketball just psycho. Like, he wants to beat you at everything he does, offensively, defensively, a motor that never stops running, incredible point of attack defender, generated a ridiculous steal rate in a professional league at 18 years old, in a league that is better than any NCAA conference. He was asked to be the primary creator with a bunch of other professionals, and he was so far and away the best creator. And then the shooting indicators, like, this guy shot over 70% from the foul line on pretty good attempts. So that's a decent indicator that the touch is there. I think there's a couple tweaks they can make. I think best case scenario, you're looking at like another Jaylen Brown or something like that. Just my guy, I'm incredibly happy for him. I'm glad everyone was wrong. He didn't slip out of the lottery or whatever. So good for Ron. Tremendous pick by the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, Detroit Pistons obviously going for upside there. We'll come back for sure, coming back to Chip. But let's go ahead and look at a little bit of what the big board looks like now. So obviously there has been a different change. There's been a different movement here. And so we're going to go ahead and bring back in Nate here. Looking at this, we obviously now have, I thought that Ron Holland might be on here way past the Grizzlies pick because I didn't know if the Grizzlies would pick him if he did fall that far. But I thought, just looking at the big board for the guys, I was feeling nervous. And then, you know what? They held to exactly how they felt about this draft, and it paid off. So your thoughts about that pick just overall?
Man, he wasn't necessarily my favorite guy in the draft, right? We all know who my favorite guy is. If you don't, there's plenty of shows for you to listen to. At the same time, that was one of the guys I was like, man, they could absolutely steal this dude at 9, and that would be awesome for them. I mean, same thing as sort of what we were talking about earlier with the Wizards and Trailblazers. It's the Pistons. I'm not overly excited to see a guy who I think is awesome go to the Pistons. At the same time, I do like the pick. I mean, it is a great dude, a great player, hyper athletic, massively athletic wing, huge motor. I think he can learn to shoot. It's the NBA. A lot of guys have learned to shoot. So I think he's going to be awesome. I like the pick. I'm a little upset he's not going to be there at 9 for the Grizz to choose from.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and keep spinning it the right direction here. We're gonna come up now. Who is next on the available is the Charlotte Hornets sitting at 6. Okay, so obviously you have Hornets, the Blazers, and then you have the Spurs, Grizzlies, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so getting closer into looking at how far is Klingon going to fall. I expected him to go 5 because I thought there would be. I would assume that Detroit didn't get what they wanted, with the moving back down, because they could have obviously fell maybe 2 spots. They could have switched probably with the Grizzlies at 9 and still come away with that. We'll see. So there's a lot of speculation. So Charlotte, any thoughts on what they do? Anything that you're thinking they should do if you had to give an opinion?
Relocate. I'm just kidding. Guys. I mean, they're going to trade back, right? That's sort of been what they're going to do the whole time. It was going to be pretty shocking if they picked here. So they got a couple targets, the Grizz being one of them, right? It's multiple of 3. This is the way. At the same time, Blazers reportedly want to try and get up there. There's a handful of teams that would love to get up there. So I do imagine that they trade back. That being said, there are guys on the board that make sense. They're not just flush with centers. It's not that they don't have bad centers. They have a couple of really talented ones. But we've seen teams roll through some prospects every now and then, James Wiseman being one of those guys. They might look to throw another dart on the board with Klingon. There's really good talent there with Devin Carter. Not sure if you think he fits next to LaMelo. A lot of good guys, maybe a Dalton Connect, but I imagine they still do the trade back.
All right, let's look at this big board. We'll get back to Nate here in a second, but looking at what they have is obviously you have Rob Dillingham and Isaiah Collier coming up here, and Nikola Topic. We're going to go to Ryan real quick, because Ryan, you want to share a little bit more about Ron Holland coming off the board there. So your thoughts on having him kind of go off the board, and so any interesting information you want to share about that?
Well, I just want to bring it up because, it's been rumored for the past couple of days about Detroit with Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, to kind of help Nate. I know he's sweating over there in that suit, so I want to kind of give him a breath of fresh air, is this a potential spot where the Grizzlies are doing their trade partner with, right? Is this a potential thing? So I'm not saying that it's a done deal for the Pistons. I think the Pistons have been very active. They've been linked to Buzelis the whole time, and this is a shock pick. Could this be a trade partner? Maybe not for the Grizzlies, but someone else where we get movement from one of those centers that we've kind of been hoping for. And Holland is just part of that trade in some sort of fashion.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. Chip, your thoughts on, what's coming up now for Charlotte, because, they have a lot that they need, and they could go so many different directions. They could be a trade partner, but they also could just pick the best player available.
Yeah, they could. This is definitely kind of one of the swing spots of the draft of exactly is someone going to come up and take one of the bigs that like a Klingon or someone that's long been rumored to go there. But they've also been mocked with, similar guys to what Detroit has with, Dalton Connect, Montes Buzelis. I saw Kristen Peak from Yahoo even saying that Tijan Salon from France is a possibility there. So interesting spot here for the Hornets.
Yeah. All right. Well, looks like the pick is in. We should be getting it here in a second from Adam Silver. He's probably back in the green room, eating another snack before he comes out here, checking his teeth, probably getting a good brush into his teeth. But I would say that, with Brandon Miller there for Charlotte, they're going to need something. And, what direction do they go? Do they go for, hey, we have, the talent, let's go ahead and go for a big swing and see how they feel, and I guess the needs of what they have? Or do they go high upside and say, hey, you know what, we'll try to figure it out? But let's go ahead and hear from Adam Silver real quick.
Adam Silver. With the 6th pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Tijan Salon.
Okay.
From Cholet,
All right.
France.
I had to turn my phone off. I didn't want to do that. again. So it's all news for me now. Sorry, Chip, for my one outburst.
You went to that. I could literally see the small screen, and people don't know behind the scenes. I can see you before I bring you on screen, and I saw you like literally straight up hands. I'm like, all right, I've got to go to him at this point. There's no reason not to. I didn't even know who the pick was. I was still shocked. And then you said what you said, I'm like, well, I will make sure I go. But all right, Tijan Salon. So looks like as Ryan's got a Chip. Give me about 20 seconds on Salon. Do you like his fit there in Charlotte?
Yeah, I actually do. One of my favorite player comparisons for Salon is PJ Washington, a guy that they just traded. I think if you look at him as kind of like this combo forward who is a play finisher, then you start to understand like how he can get on the floor early in the NBA. I think he was often billed as this kind of like Giannis type wing or something like that. And he's got a long way to go before he gets there. But the guy has a motor that is constantly running. I believe that he's going to work and continue to improve his game, and he's going to be able to finish a lot of lobs from LaMelo Ball in Charlotte. So a fun pick, upside swing, and I respect it.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, go ahead and give us a little bit of a breakdown on Tijan Salon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the second thing. I know it sounds outlandish, but this is in kind of weaker drafts like this, we've seen players like Giannis emerge, right? Not saying Salon is Giannis, but he has that kind of ceiling, right? 6'9", 6'10", combo wing forward, plays extremely hard, like Chip says. The question mark is the shooting. It looks a little wooden and stiff, but I think he'll get better, with more time with the NBA franchise. But for the Hornets, I mean, if the Hornets are actually keeping this, which I assume they are, why would they trade it? You just take anybody that has high upswing. You're not winning next year. You're not doing anything. So just take a risk on a guy who could be a top 3, if not the top player from this draft. So take the risk, see what happens. I don't know if he's going to see a ton of the floor year one, but new coaching staff, new ownership, we'll just kind of see where he progresses and if it's right away or takes a little time for him to get going to season him a little bit, so to speak.
All right. Well, yeah, Ryan, we'll come back to you real quick. We'll go ahead and get through Tijan Salon. Listen, I had him going at possibly 8 to San Antonio and kind of fell there, but it's okay. We'll get back to him, but let's go ahead and look at the big board that we have here. And we're going to look at, obviously now Dillingham's still there, Collier, Topich, and then Tyler Smith. And so let's go ahead and bring in Nate to discuss that last pick. So Nate, you saw that last pick, Tijan Salon. That was a pick that happened. Your thoughts on that, just overall?
I don't understand. I don't know what's going on, man. I really thought it was going to go. I saw some stuff on Twitter saying it was happening. My thought is they wanted way too much for the Grizzlies to trade up there, if that's the case, because it was being reported that it was happening right before the pick came in on my screen.
Really? Okay.
So it was reported that was going to be going on. I think Jake Fisher was the one putting it out, which tells me it was happening and fell through. So they probably just asked for too much, which means Klingen's probably going 7, if I had to guess, which means I don't know. Who knows what's happening?
At this point, with because if you don't go 7, like my assumption for Klingen doesn't go 7, he goes past 8 and the Grizzlies get him at 9. I just don't see out any way he slips to 9 because everybody knows that they want Klingen, or they did. We assume they want Klingen, and we know that there's smoke and, sometimes, and, it's not no fire there. But I would be shocked. We'll talk more about the Grizzlies once we kind of figure it out. Jared wants to know a little bit about, who am I rooting for the Grizzlies? Their first pick to be that it was going to be Klingen. That was on my big board. Ron Holland was next. I don't even have my big board in front of me here. Let me see if I can find my notes. But I would say that, man, Buzelis is fine. Honestly, if it's me, like I'm okay with going Carter or somebody, but we'll kind of see. But let's go ahead and go to Adam Silver real quick.
24 NBA draft. The Portland Trailblazers select Donovan Klingen from the University of Connecticut.
Wow. All right. So Klingen's off the board here. See you later. Sayonara. We don't like you anymore. All right. So looking at Klingen, we'll kind of get past him. And so let's go ahead and look at, Klingen going off the board. He definitely falls down on the guy's big board. And Nate, we'll come back to you in a second, but just looking at this, that means that Dillingham now has kind of fallen down. He's still, falling out. I think he potentially falls out of the top 10. But let's go ahead and look at Donovan Clingan here, because I do think that he is a guy that could be a good pick moving forward. I just don't know how he does in Portland. So, Ryan, your thoughts on Donovan Clingan?
Yeah, Donovan's fine. Like, he's okay. The skill that you're wanting is the rim protection, right? And I just felt like I saw a lot of times where he just didn't finish well in the post, and that's the thing that kind of worries me. If he's just a guy that's going to be your screen and roll and passer, there's a certain ceiling to that. Like we've seen with the Grizzlies, you can win a lot of games that way, right? But your ceiling might be the second round of the playoffs if that's your main guy. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's rumored going on with this pick, but I'm a little confused by it for the Blazers because they just traded for Salah. Traded for Abdija, and now they've got Ayton. They still got Jeremy Grant. Like, what is the rotation going on right there? So I don't know. I don't really get it unless the Portland's doing something else.
Yeah, Chip, this is your guy that you had obviously ranked a little bit higher than Ryan. So, break it down for the fit there and why he honestly went 7 to Portland.
Yeah, obviously you start with the guy is an absolute giant. When he puts his shoes on, he's about 7'3" with a 7'7" wingspan. His game is frankly a little bit similar to what the Grizzlies saw with Steven Adams. Like really comfortable with the ball in his hands, really good passer, has a little bit of post game, can score. I think that's one of the big swing things for him is how does he score in the NBA. But the sell with him is that he's just an incredible drop defender. The defensive numbers were off the charts. He's going to cover up a lot of mistakes. You look at Portland with Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simon, Scoot Henderson. That's a lot of smaller guys who are typically offensive first. And to have a guy like him anchoring the back, I think makes a ton of sense. But he's obviously had some injury problems. And then he was not able to stay on the floor in terms of his overall conditioning, was not a high minute guy at UConn. So there are definitely some concerns with him. He's far from a perfect prospect, but I think Portland is rightfully recognizing that the Ayton stuff is just not going to work long term, and they go ahead and draft his future replacement, I would presume.
Yeah, Ayton's got to be feeling a little bit rough right here. All right, we'll get back to you, Chip. Thanks for that. We're gonna get to the best available and what we have now, and let's go ahead and bring Nate in. Obviously we thought that Clingan could go there. He ended up going there, but we're still looking pretty much the same exact board. Obviously, we lost Clingan out of Chip's board, and then Ryan, because he was drinking that day, he wasn't even on that one, so we didn't even have to fix his side. But let's go back and just kind of get your thoughts immediately about that, because now the Grizzlies missed out on that. If we're looking for the Grizzlies side, they missed out. Your thoughts overall on Clingan going there to Portland?
Well, after getting talked out of Clingan for a while, I got re-talked back into Clingan over the past couple of days. But it's obviously it seems like the Grizz did want him, but it seemed like they were not going to do the Zaire Williams thing where they traded up preemptively and their guy wasn't there. They waited until draft night, and then they weren't able to get the deal done. So maybe that's what happened. Maybe it's been a smokescreen the entire time. We'll never know. For me, the dream is alive. And we'll get to the dream if it happens, or we'll get to the dream when it shatters. But my dream is still alive for who the Grizzlies take with their pick.
So we're sitting here, the Grizzlies at 9, and we're coming up on them with San Antonio at 8. I literally had Tijan Salon going to them at number 8, and he obviously went 2 picks earlier at 6. Any thoughts on what's coming up now for San Antonio, any direction they go, because the French boys are gone. So anywhere they go.
I'm really hoping it's not Devin Carter. I would love for Devin Carter to be their next pick. He's not my number one guy either, but at the same time, it's you love for the Grizzlies have that option. I think he's a guy that can fit anywhere. I'm hoping that he doesn't become a San Antonio Spur. But no, I don't know. San Antonio has a lot of building to do. It doesn't feel like the draft is going to be where they do it all. So, honestly, they were a team I thought might trade one of these picks out of the top 10, try and get some different assets to work with. so far, it looks like they're keeping that pick, and we'll see what happens.
All right, I just actually just saw where this next pick is going, so I don't want to give it away too much. But let's go ahead and look at the draft board. And so we're a little bit behind, but we want to kind of keep it as normal as we can for everybody. But looking at here, you have Chip with Rob Dillingham and then Nikola Topic, which is obviously coming off an ACL injury. Chip, a little bit about your top guys: Dillingham, Collier, anybody that you think would be a good fit here in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think that they can really kind of take any of these guards and feel pretty good about it because Castle, while he wants to be a point guard and views himself as a point guard, he's got the positional size to be able to guard twos and threes as well. So, like, you get concerned about a guy like a Dillingham because he is shorter, but an absolutely electric on-ball scorer and probably the second best shooter in this draft behind his college teammate Reed Shepherd. But really, any of these guards would make sense for them.
Ryan, real quick, looks like the pick is coming in soon. So give me your thoughts real fast.
I would assume with Castle, they got a big point guard. Now they need to look shooting. That would be my assumption.
Anybody that you're targeting if you're looking at their board just overall?
I mean, if you're looking for a shooter right now, it's Dalton Connect or Rob Dillingham, right? Those are the two immediate ones that I would think of are still currently available.
Okay. Well, honestly, it looks like they're going to go a certain direction that surprised me a little bit. But we're gonna look at this real quick. Looks like Adam Silver's coming up to talk right now.
With the 8th pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Rob Dillingham from the University of.
All right, we heard about that a little bit, but let's go ahead and go to him. And he's your guy, Chip. He's number one on your big board at the moment. Let's go ahead and share your thoughts about it.
Yeah, absolutely electric on-ball scorer. Can get his shot off anytime he wants. A true shooter, but also a shot maker. And there is a difference there, and I think he does both of them. Can get to anywhere on the floor anytime he wants. Going to be able to get his shot off anytime he wants. I think he's got the best handle in this class. Some of the best handles I've seen in the last couple drafts, probably. Obviously, my last bullet point there, he will struggle defensively just because of his size and the load that he carries on offense. But look, when you have Victor Wembanyama back there cleaning everything up, and you just drafted what some would argue to be the best guard wing defender in Stephon Castle, then this fit is incredible. This is the Spurs have, shocker, they've done it once again. I really, really enjoy these two picks from them, and I think they all make sense in the context of what they're trying to build.
Yeah. All right. So let's get a little bit of, off of him. I think he's a good fit for them. My only issue with that is you're talking about a guy who they just got Stephon Castle. So if you're Stephon Castle, I don't know what you're thinking and the direction that San Antonio is going, but you're obviously getting a good point guard and a good guard. All right, let's go back to looking at the big board here, and we'll bring in Nate to discuss his last pick. But obviously, Rob Dillingham will fall off, and Isaiah Collier goes up on the top of Chip's board. We'll come back to that real fast. So, any thoughts on that? Rob Dillingham going to San Antonio there?
A little surprising. Didn't feel like the Spursiest guy left on the board. We just talked about a team that often does a lot of stuff for fit. At the same time, for all the reasons that Chip was just mentioning, I like Dillingham, right? It's a guy who, again, I think as Grizzlies fans, we were probably not super high on just because of the fit with our specific team. At the same time, it's a dude who can absolutely score the ball at a extremely high clip, can handle the ball really well. Seems like a more of a true point guard type. Same thing. I'm not positive how it works when you have him and Castle both coming off the board in the top 10 for San Antonio, but we'll see how it plays out. That's an organization that seems to be able to figure quite a bit out in that regard.
All right, let's go back and look at the big board right here, Nate. And anybody on here that you're looking at, because now it's the Grizzlies, right? And the pick is in. They have somebody who they obviously have targeted. And so I'm curious what direction they go here because, with the Grizzlies being on the, picking, I don't know who in the world they would pick. Is the person that they pick on the screen right now, Nate?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I'd say hopefully, but I think I'd be hoping for something different than a lot of people would be.
All right, we're going to bring everybody in. We're going to do this together. We're going to look at this pick. Obviously, the pick is in, and there's a lot of people that know who it is. Does anybody know who it is? Because there has been rumors. I've heard there's potentially.
Oh, Chip.
So Chip knows who it is.
Yep.
Listen. You're the main one that said you didn't want to know, and all of a sudden
know,
now you're the
I
one
know.
knowing.
I can't tell by a steely glaze
I
if
know.
that's a good thing or a bad thing. Am I about to be disappointed?
Never too high, never too low. I have my guesses, but I do not know.
I will say I am containing excitement. I am fascinated by this, and I am containing excitement.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I think my guess might be wrong.
I have excitement that I want to not be I don't want to be live on video when this pick comes through. So I might remove myself and take a walk around the block or something.
Again, only thing I promised was visceral. So we're gonna see.
Anybody that Nate, let's go around the table real quick. Nate, anybody you don't want it to be?
Yes.
Who?
No comment.
I'll say it.
Ryan, anybody you don't want it to be here?
Zach Edey. I don't want Zach Edey.
All right, so we're gonna hopefully go through it. Listen, I know that some of us won't love it, some of us will love it. There's been a lot of speculation about this pick. I've thought about it for a while, and we kind of had intel that it could be him, but I don't know. So let's kind of hear from the commissioner.
The 2024 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Zach Edey from Toronto and Purdue University.
He didn't even go to the green room. He didn't show up to the draft because he did not expect to actually go. Chip, give us your thoughts. I'm tired of talking about it, and I just don't want to be here anymore.
Okay, so Zach Edey is maybe the most dominant college big man in modern college basketball history. The analytics for him are beyond off the charts. He dominated for multiple years in a very good conference, took Purdue to national title game. I think that early on in this process, I was pretty low on Zach Edey, but as I looked at what he can do versus what he can't do, I saw a guy who was a dominant rebounder, a dominant screen setter, a dominant paint scorer, who's going to be able to score against any switch in the league, and a guy who just doesn't fatigue. He's always available and always plays. I buy him as a role player at worst, and I think there is upside here for him to be a high-level starter. Look, I'll be honest, it took me a long time to buy into this, and there are a lot of people whose draft opinions I weigh very heavily and have a lot of respect for, who have Zach Edey as the best available player in this draft. I couldn't quite get there, but for me, I've always said this, the Grizzlies are a lot smarter than me. And if they like Zach Edey, then I understand why they like Edey, and I'm in. It fits the biggest need. It gets them a starting caliber center on a rookie contract for the next 4 years. And I just think it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I ended up being much higher on him than I expected to be.
All right, let's go look at a little bit of everybody real quick and going back to it. We obviously have Edey that, he went off the board. Ryan, your thoughts on this pick, because obviously this wasn't what you love, wasn't what I love, but your immediate thoughts on this pick.
Well, my immediate thoughts are it's a gimmick, right? Oh, we need a big guy center. Let's get the biggest human available, right? Look, I love Chip. I just don't feel the same way about Zach Edey. The only bright side I can say about him for at his size is he's incredibly durable, right? He played almost 40 games this past year, 32 minutes a game. Klingon played 22 minutes per game, played 30-something games, right, as well. So you at least know he's durable. Maybe that's part of the allure for the Grizzlies. Is like, hey, he's massive, And he's usually on the court, which has been a problem for us for the past couple years. So you're not getting a Steven Adams replacement in the super physical like he's physically looking at you imposing, but I don't think he plays super imposing, especially on the defensive end. He is a bruiser on offense, but now you're talking about a 5 or a 4 out and you're throwing the ball into this guy. I don't know if he's a starter. Is he the second rotation? There's a lot of questions that I have with this that I'm kind of to wait to see what shakes out with the rest of the evening, because I think there will be more trades to come to see how this makes sense, because my initial reaction is that there's a hard cap ceiling on what you can be with Zach Edey as your 5. And so that's what I'm curious to see what happens after this.
All right, we're going to go to the next pick, 10th pick.
2024 NBA Draft. The Utah Jazz select Cody Williams.
All right, Cody Williams going to Utah, and at this point in the draft, boys and girls, we're gonna give you the picks. We're gonna go all the way up into 14 and give you that pick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But we're gonna continue to keep us 4 on the screen. We're gonna go through a little bit of the Grizzlies, but going through Cody Williams, Chip, you had him higher on your big board. Your thoughts on Cody Williams just overall?
Yeah, really long, wiry, great finisher. Obviously, the brother of Oklahoma City wing Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. A guy that was a really tough eval for me in this class because he had multiple injuries throughout the season. He had ankle problems. He obviously had to wear the face mask. He was at, facial injuries. But when he was healthy, he basically was impossible to keep out of the paint and finished at a very high level. His 3-point shooting percentage is high, but it's on very low attempts. Just to be honest, he's a project. It's going to take some time with him, but I think you can see the outline of a really good wing and a guy who obviously has the pedigree of his brother now being a very high level NBA player with the Thunder.
Yeah, I'm just curious can he live up, and is this because his brother did so well this year? All right, let's go back a little bit because we're going to still wrap up, and you haven't had your chance to talk about the idiot. But Nate, your thoughts about Zach Edey?
Go Grizz. I'm a fan of anyone that's on the Memphis Grizzlies most of the time. I don't love the pick, but it's a lot less about Zach Edey and a whole lot more about the guy I wanted to be with the pick, which it's no secret. I'm huge on Day'Ron Holmes. I just think he's awesome. I think he fits the way the Grizz play. I think he's underrated. And so I would have loved for them to go there. I personally would have loved for them to trade back and then get him a little bit later on. But listen, sort of like Ryan was saying, ironically, since he didn't like him, I'm going to twist into a positive. He fits the need the Grizzlies have. I have doubted the entire time, even if they took a Klingon or took Edey or even a Day'Ron Holmes, that they were going to go into the season with a rookie center. Don't think it's going to happen. I still think there's moves to be made out there. Listen, we're going to see what happens. I said, I'm not as down on Edey as I was big on other guys. So I'm interested to see what happens. I did get, into a Twitter argument, which I try really hard to avoid for the most part a while ago, saying I thought that Edey's footwork on the offensive end at least looked better than Klingon's to me. I thought he looked better down there and sharper. So
can I mention something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this a play that's very specific drafting because in the playoffs you're probably going to have to run into the Timberwolves, right? Like it's just maybe the Grizzlies are more complete than we think they are, that they're looking for specific players now to play certain different types, right? Because you're not going to have Zach Edey for 3-4 rounds, right, in the NBA playoffs, but you'll probably need him against a giant team like the Minnesota Timberwolves if they stay constructed as they are, especially against Rudy Gobert. So maybe that's what's going on here. I don't know, but that's what it feels like. It's a very specific, we're going to have to go through this team at some point. Let's have a guy just in case to match that size.
Yeah, and that could be true for sure. It looks like we're coming up on the Bulls here. They just went to commercials, so I'm not going to give the pick just yet. But speaking of the Timberwolves, let's go back and recap a little bit of the trade that is happening. It looks like San Antonio is sending out Rob Dillingham to Minnesota. So Minnesota is receiving Rob Dillingham. And I did not expect that. I did not know that happened. And then now they're going to get a 2032 unprotected first rounder from Minnesota. So I'm guessing they're saying, hey, listen, this is a long play and then a 2030 pick swap. That doesn't make sense, and that can't be the whole trade. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Because that just screams outlandish to do that.
I do. I mean, if everybody doesn't mind me going again, like it's just kind of the state of this draft, and it's not a draft where you're going to get a lot of star power. Minnesota sees a microwave score, which they have problems in the playoffs with that. And I think Rob Dillingham is more of a bench microwave scorer, which is something they kind of desperately missed during the playoffs in just spot minutes, that it makes sense for Minnesota to do this. San Antonio, I mean, what's hurting you by pushing this out 6 or 7 years? Like This isn't bothering you at all. And with what's going in Minnesota with the front office and the ownership change, there's been all sorts of reports they don't want to pay luxury tax. The new owner is going to be cheaper. You always have new owner syndrome. I mean, this could be a very, very valuable pick in a few years that they could use once again for somebody to entice to get up higher in, say, next year's draft when you got Cooper Flagg, right? So I think Dillingham fits kind of immediate need that the Timberwolves are looking for, and they have the defensive infrastructure to surround him to kind of save him a little bit. It's interesting from the Spurs because it's so far out, and it's a top 10 pick. That's rare.
Yeah,
like you just do not get trades like this there where no players are involved, where it's 6 or 8 years out picks for a top 10 pick, and that's just the way this draft is this year.
Nate, you want to say something?
After a brief period of mourning for the Day'Ron Holmes Dream's death on national television, I've talked myself into Zach Edey. Zach Edey is going to be a Grizzlies legend. He's going to have his jersey in the rafters. We are so back, baby. Rick Ryan forever. God. Zach Edey. That's our guy. I've talked myself into it. I'm a happy camper, baby.
Look, are you doing Gigi and Edey in Summer League? I mean, Edey's going to average 40 in Summer League, and we're going to fall all over ourselves.
Edey's going to be with Team Canada. He won't be playing in Summer League. He'll be at the Olympics.
You thought he was white and American, Ryan.
No, I thought it was Cuban. I thought he was related to a Lopez brother, but I couldn't remember.
All right, real quick, going back, Chip, I want to ask about Edey a little bit because Abraham Miller is voicing his concerns because he's not understanding the hate. He's saying he's more durable than Klingon. He tested more athletic than Klingon and Sarr at the combine, which is kind of shocking. But it is a cost-controlled number that they get him at that 9 spot. So your thoughts on kind of answering those questions?
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely think he's spot on here. Like the combine testing numbers were pretty shocking with Edey. He was comfortably more athletic than Klingon and beat Sarr, who's known as a much better mover than him, and several of the numbers. So like, that's kind of what we touched on a little bit too of this. You now have a guy who's a little bit older and seems pretty ready to be able to contribute immediately, who is now on the cost-controlled rookie scale deal for the next 4 seasons, where you don't have to go spend a ton of money and get, unload a lot of assets to go get a center.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to go to the Bulls real quick because it looks like their pick is in. Any suggestions? If you haven't seen the pick, who do you think is going to go here?
I've seen the pick.
Better be quick.
Isaiah Collier.
Pick in the 2024 NBA draft. The Chicago Bulls select Matis Buzelis from Chicago in the NBA's G League.
All right, so G League guy, another G League guy. Listen, that was 2. All we need is 1 more, and we have the trifecta of money for Tyler Smith going in the top 20 here. But who had Tyler Smith? Looks like it. Ryan, your thoughts on Matis Buzelis? I'm sorry, no, you're not him. Who had Matis Buzelis on here? Oh, it was Chip.
I think I did. Yeah.
Your thoughts on Matis Buzelis?
Yeah, really good vertical athlete. Struggled a lot with shooting in the NBA or in the G League this year, which is kind of natural. He and Holland had some of the same problems. Just you're shooting from a different line, but he was a much better shooter if you go back to his high school AAU prep stuff. Can dribble some. He's kind of a tweener. I think if you view him as a power forward who could eventually play on the wing, then you understand the sell a little bit more there. He's a pretty good defender as well. I think he's got potential to switch. He's a pretty good, help side rim protector. And so, yeah, it's a good pick. And congratulations to him. He's actually from Chicago, so he gets to play for the hometown Bulls.
That is awesome. Ryan, your thoughts on Matas Buzelis going to Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, on my board, Tyler Smith, I have him above him, and Tyler Smith's probably going to be on the board for a while. Just FYI for everybody. Hopefully, in the next 9 picks, like Daniel said, he comes off the board. But, I mean, Buzelis I think it's the promise of what he might be, right? Like, is he this versatile, maybe not 3-and-D. I don't know if he's more perimeter defensive oriented, but he did block a lot of shots at his size, which he's not. I mean, I think he's 6'9", 6'10", so it's not like he's short, but he's also not big for a 4. But he blocked a lot of shots. So, yeah, I think the shooting is kind of the swing skill for him, which you can say that about every NBA player. It will be interesting that he's kind of in the same spot where Lauri Markkanen was, right? With the Bulls. What is his position? Will he be able to flourish there? And they kind of sold on him early, and we saw him flourish in a bigger, expanded role with the Jazz. We'll see if he has that kind of trajectory, because I kind of feel like that's where he's going to have to end up being in that realm. Not say that he needs to be Mark and be good, right? But if he's in that realm, he's a solid NBA player and a good pickup for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, especially going back to your hometown team. He's on the screen right now, losing it emotionally, which is awesome to kind of see. Not that he's losing it just in general, but the fact that it's so overwhelmed with emotion. And his family is overwhelmed with emotion is pretty awesome to see there. All right. We have OKC coming up. They're obviously a team that has been rival to the Grizzlies here at 12. And then we're going to round them out with Sacramento and Portland just in the lottery just overall. And then after that, we'll give our final thoughts and get out of here. So I don't want to spend too much time. I do want to give a shout out to all y'all guys for coming on here. Everyone that has been here in the chat. Appreciate it. This has felt more like the post-game shows that I miss. Like when me and Nate are doing our shows, it's very just dormant. It's very chill. We're not a show that comes on weekly. We're a post-game show. We do this kind of stuff because this is more the quick moving, the fast pace, and this is kind of what we're doing. So throughout the season, if for some reason right after the game, if you want to come over and check out Grizz 901, we'll definitely be here. But Chip, going to we'll look forward to OKC a little bit. Any thoughts on them and what your thoughts on who they might go after, but also what they should do?
Yeah, I mean, OKC, obviously a very good drafting team. That's how they have built the team that they have right now. That's certainly a team that's looking to compete. The top guy that I have available is Isaiah Collier. Nikola Topic, obviously starting to slip a little bit as well. Devin Carter, they kind of have someone similar in Cason Wallace, who they drafted last year. Filipowski, we're kind of at that point in the draft where it's going to be difficult to predict because I think teams' boards are going to vary so much. But if they were just to stick with who I believe is the most talented guy available, it'd be Isaiah Collier. And I think he's got the size to be able to play next to a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, someone like that. Same goes for Topic. Obviously, probably not going to play his rookie season with the torn ACL, but tremendous just creator, downhill playmaker. I could see him being an interesting fit there as well. But got plenty of wings they could take swings on. They like big, long guys. Sorry that the Grizzlies took the biggest and longest guy off the board for them. But I don't know. Maybe they can find somebody else.
Ryan, your thoughts on coming OKC here?
Yeah, I think like Chip said, of the players that are left, Topic is kind of the swing guy, right? Like he's got the partially torn ACL. He's going to miss some time, but they just traded away Josh Giddey, I think because of the expense of him that was going to come up. And so here comes Topic, or hopefully if OKC knows what they're doing, but here comes Topic with another giant point guard whose question mark is shooting, but now he's on a cheaper contract. Like, we've seen that formula work for them, obviously being the 1 seed in the West. But besides that, like, there's not really a lot of high end swing guys. Like, do you want Dalton Connect just for the pure scoring? I don't know. They seem to go more towards versatility. Is there any of those guys left? Like, everyone has kind of linked them to Kyle Filipowski. I never really got that one. Like, is Khalil Ware a type of guy that might be interested in? I could see it being a swing guy for sure for the Thunder here.
Yeah, I'm curious which direction they do go, and just overall. But Nate, any thoughts on what you think they should do? But anything that you're seeing in this draft, because it looks like the pick is in, but they're dragging their feet getting to it at this point.
Yeah, I see the pick. So sorry, it's on my TV screen right now. But I will say I think the pick makes sense after hearing the voice for the first time in an interview this week. Was very impressed with that. But and truly with the pick that just came in, I think another move that was recently made makes a lot of sense.
With the 12th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Nikola Topic from Belgrade, Serbia, and Serbia.
All right, so obviously the OKC Thunder moved off of Josh Giddey, right, and they got Alex Caruso. So at that point, it kind of, I guess, set them up to have a little bit more of a defensive minded, but somebody who could probably, do a little bit of what they needed. But now you lost that backup point guard potential. And at this point, they're set to the point of, hey, let's go with best player available. And so at that point, I'm thinking that's kind of the direction they went. And so, Ryan, I know you had Nikola Topic pretty high on your board. Any thoughts on Nikola Topic here going 13 to OKC?
No, I mean, just to kind of keep going on, like, it just feels kind of like a cost control move, right? If Josh Giddey was not wanting to be a bench kind of facilitator for that team, that was the best route for him moving forward. Why not take a guy who's cheaper and will actually, buy into that kind of role that they need? So there's a lot of question marks about the shooting. Is he quick enough, athletic enough? I think he's, if not the best passer, one of the best passers in this draft. So, I think it makes sense for the Thunder because, I mean, this is a team that took Ousmane Dieng, 12th or whatever it was. Like, they're not afraid to take a guy, even if they have to wait on him, like Chet Holmgren. And so to me, he's 6'6", 6'7" point guard, high IQ. I think it's a good risk for them.
Yeah. Looking at this, Chip, in your opinion, how does it affect the Grizzlies? Because that's kind of what we're trying to, spin around now is the Grizzlies go draft Zach Edey. So they kind of feel the need and maybe get a guy who could be a dude who could be a decision factor within a game. But now Nikola Topic just, going to OKC and them being one of our bigger rivals in the upcoming teams. How does that affect them going against the Grizzlies, whether it's now or the future?
Yeah, I mean, I love this pick. I thought he was easily worth a top 10 pick, and I think you can find a lot of smart people who would tell you he's worth a top 3 pick, even with the ACL problem. These guys just draft incredibly well, and I think they adhere probably as well as any team to my personal draft philosophy, which is just take the best player, and then you can figure out the rest via trades and free agency. And I'm assuming Topic was the best guy on their board, and that's what they went with. And like we've kind of talked about, when you have the positional size of a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he can play with smaller guys. And now you're adding a guy in Topic who's basically a 6'6" point guard. So they continue with the plus positional size. They continue with a guy who creates like crazy, finishes at the rim like crazy. It's a great pick, and they just, they continue to stockpile a lot of really talented guys. And, we'll see kind of what this team shapes up to be. But you're right. This is going to be one of the teams the Grizzlies are going to have to get past in this Ja, Jaren, Dez era if they want to get out of the Western Conference and play for a title.
All right, looking at this, Nate, we're talking about the Kings that are coming up now, and they're obviously on the clock, and it says their pick is in. I'm starting to see a little bit of trade talks revolving around this pick that's coming up. And so I'm not exactly sure. I do believe they have the pick in, but I'm not sure exactly if they're going to make a trade of some sort and get off of it. So this could be rerouted somewhere. But anything for the Kings, that is there a Kings player that you're like, hey, wait, I do like this guy. If he went to the Kings, it would make complete sense.
Other than my guy, who I think could go anywhere, and Dayron Holmes. Honestly, when I look at you're trying to get a guy to pair really well next to De'Aaron Fox, a guy like Devin Carter makes a lot of sense. I see that the pick is in. I haven't seen this pick yet, and I've seen nothing about trades, but Devin Carter makes a lot of sense to me. Just because he's a guy that kind of does what you wanted Davion Mitchell to do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he kind of fills that need. So I'm interested to see that they want to trade this pick. I actually feel like they're one of the few teams left that has some guys that make sense for them in this. And that asset couldn't be used in a different way. But Devin Carter is my favorite guy for the Kings left. I also wanted the Grizzlies to take him at 9 if they didn't take Dayron Holmes. So there's like two guys left I like, and they're both still there.
About the trade, it looks like they were in significant trade talks to move off of the pick, but it looks like they're going to go ahead and select a player here. And so that's where a lot of the trade talks were going. But at this point, they are, going to go with a guy. Listen, whoever this is, I believe that it's going to be a guy that's kind of sliding. A guy that is sliding a lot is Dalton Connect. So anything that you've seen and maybe why he's sliding so much, because I saw him, big on a lot of people's board, and I don't know which one of you had him higher on your board at one point, but Ryan, any reason why you think that he's sliding this much?
I don't know. Besides just the teams that are selecting are taking the higher swings, right? And Dalton Connect is a known commodity. He's 23? I don't know if you could correct me on that, Chip, but 23 years old, like he's an old player. You know what he is. He had some defensive struggles. He got benched by Rick Barnes for not playing hard enough on defense. So,
all right, the pick is in.
The Sacramento Kings select Devin Carter from Providence.
All right, Devin Carter is in. Ryan, keep going on Devin Carter. Your thoughts on him going to the Kings?
Yeah, Devin Carter is kind of in that Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham kind of role. Like he does everything that you want to see, right? High motor, plays defense, point of attack defense, is a pest defensively, can shoot, dribble, pass, shoot, right? Like we all kind of want players like that. My caution was just the size again with him. I think he measured 6'2.5" without shoes on. So I think that's kind of what kept me saying, hey, the Grizzlies should take him at 9, because I think he's a really good role player. I don't know if he was worthy of a top 10 pick. But at 13 for the Kings, it makes sense. The question is now, what are they doing with Davion Mitchell? It feels like they're going to be moving on from him if they're bringing in Devin Carter. So it's interesting to see if they do keep this pick and he kind of replaces Davion. Maybe that's a Bulldog guy the Grizzlies might be interested in to be a pest in the second man rotation. But yeah, I think he's a good pick for the Kings, a value pick where he's taking it.
Yeah, the value play right there, I think, is the biggest key. And Chip, looking at this, and obviously this is another West team, and we have his dad on our coaching staff. But do you like the pick and anything that, you feel like it maybe makes the Kings just a little bit better?
Yeah, I thought Devin Carter was worthy of a top 10 pick. I had him in my personal top 10. I mean, first and foremost, he's an absolute dog. Gets after it, point of attack, off ball, defense. He's got just, what he lacks in height, he makes up for the 6'9" wingspan. And there's a decent argument that he is the best athlete in this draft. Posted some pretty ridiculous combine numbers. And I think the thing that allowed him to jump up and be considered in the lottery was the improvement he made to his shot this past year, and also kind of handling a lot of the playmaking responsibilities for Providence. I mean, frankly, he just bailed them out on offense over and over again. A great player. I think he's a really interesting fit next to De'Aaron Fox, because Fox is kind of the same way, like a dogged, just point guard. And those two together, I mean, that's a formidable, really tough defensive backcourt that makes a lot of sense. And, to Ryan's point, I think he is what they hoped Davion Mitchell would be. I was never quite a big Mitchell fan, but I think that Carter is going to end up being that type of player they thought they were getting in Davion Mitchell a few years ago.
Yeah, that has to be what the direction they were thinking is, if they can get a little bit better on that end. Nate, all right, go ahead and finish up the thoughts on Carter. You obviously like the pick, but now we're coming up on our last pick, and you're looking at another team and Portland Trailblazers who already made one pick. Any thoughts on a player that you like that's still out there available?
Well, they traded that pick to the Wizards, which I forgot until the graphic popped up on my screen. That was part of the Denny Avdia trade earlier today.
Okay.
I honestly have no idea on this one who they'll go with. At this point, it's kind of like shoot your shot. It feels like Connect probably the guy has kind of gotten to that point where it's like almost who else are you going to take? Unless you really love a guy like Johnny Furphy, who I've seen a lot of buzz around the past 2 days, especially, which makes you think he might move up. But it feels like Connect's probably the guy here if I had to guess. Maybe Isaiah Collier, but they're pretty guard heavy right now anyway, so I don't really see that one making much sense.
Ryan, we're going to the Wizards now because of the trade. Give us your predictions on this pick that's coming up here at 14.
I mean, I really like Isaiah Collier. He's really high on my board. I mean, I don't know what the plan is with Tyus Jones, right? But Isaiah Collier is kind of the power bruising point guard that I think we'll need a year. Like, it's kind of the Scoot Henderson thing, right? I think he's going to struggle next year wherever he gets drafted, but I just don't understand how you go from preseason number 1 to now you're a 20th best player in a draft. I just don't get it. I'm just always going to lean on the side of the talent. And so I think Collier is supremely talented as a point guard and gets downhill whenever he wants. Finished really well at the rim for a pretty mediocre USC team. And saying pretty mediocre is actually kind to that team. But yeah, I would take Collier. Why not?
All right, we have the pick. Sorry, this is not the trade. And so I thought we had another graphic. So the different trade that's gone.
While you're pulling that up, I'd like to apologize. I realized that I talked about the trade and then immediately gave my breakdown for Portland saying they're guard heavy. So my bad.
What an idiot. All right. All right. So we're going to go ahead, Chip. Last thoughts. It looks like actually they're going to the commissioner now. And so Portland's on the clock, but it's actually Washington.
The Portland Trailblazers select Bub Carrington.
Oh, wow.
Bub Carrington.
I love it.
Shout out to Bub. Listen, a shout out to a lot of people. Listen, this is pick 14. We're about to wrap up very shortly. But thank you to a lot of people that have come in and that are honestly going to stay up with us for the rest of the show. But if you're leaving, thank you for hanging out with us. It's been a fun night. But Chip, let's go to you, Bub Carrington. Oh, Carlton himself. How you like it, especially the fit Washington?
Yeah, man. I am a huge Bub Carrington fan. This guy is electric on ball, one of the best on ball scorers. Just gets to his shot and makes his shot at an incredibly high level. Maybe the best shot creator outside of Rob Dillingham in this class, and he's 6'5". So there's a chance that Bub Carrington is going to return top 10 value in this draft. I think you'll find a lot of smart people that are really high on him. Defensively, there's not a ton of sell there. He's probably just going to have to survive as a defender, especially as his body continues to fill out. He's a young guy, but just a flat-out on-ball bucket getter. And going to Washington seems like they're going to have a lot of shots available, so that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely throw it up. They got Sarr early as a second pick, so Washington coming back here after getting off of Denny Avdia. So obviously the shots, available for sure. Ryan, your thoughts on Bub?
Yeah, I really like Bub too. And one of my favorite things about shooters is not the percentage at a low volume; it's higher volume. And this guy took almost 6 of them per game at Pittsburgh, shooting almost 33%. So it's not like it's not a Reed Shepherd blow you off the map, 50% or whatever it was for him. But it's still a manageable percentage where you could see, hey, there's the volume. With time, it's probably going to connect more. The question with the Wizards is Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma,
Right.
How does this work? But the Wizards, I don't think, care about that. They're just accumulating talent, and whoever makes it, right? And I think that's kind of the point of the draft. You just take a guy, because I think a lot of times when we say it depends on fit on a certain player, then they're not really that good of a player, right? Like good players transcend fit. And so we're going to find out with Bub Carrington if he's good or not, because if he can transcend that fit and be a really good player, he should be an all-star for having to play beside Poole and Kuzma.
All right. Quick question, Nate. Do you have any clue who Bub Carrington is?
A guy with a dope name.
Yeah.
And that's honestly all you need.
That's it. That's 101. You just come in with Bub and you're like, hey, I used to be Carlton. Nah, we're Bub.
I like how you had to put your Google glasses on first before you.
These are my analysis glasses. Honestly, I think you'd understand that like a professional, but here I am making mistakes again.
All right, let's
more
go
about the Blazers guards for us real quick.
Right. Listen, I have talk more about somebody that's not getting drafted there. All right, so obviously Miami's on the clock at 15. We're gonna probably send out Nate very shortly, but real quick, we're gonna talk through a little bit of just kind of put a bow on everything Grizzlies related. So last thoughts on everything, and your kind of immediate, and we'll go down from the farthest from me. And Ryan, we're going to start with you. But instant thoughts. Obviously, it's going to change. People love Edie. Some people hate Edie. Honestly, as Wayno says, like it's basketball Christmas. It feels like you want to bite. You open your present, you got a scooter. Now you're just like, what happened?
Oh man!
So a lot of people are against it. But your thoughts?
My first thought is I'm praying for King Meeks if he's out there. I haven't been looking at the comments. But no, I mean, for where we're picking at, it felt like you're only going to get, this was an opportunity, right? We hope for this Grizzlies team, this core, we're not in this position again for the next 6 years, right? And so this felt like an opportunity to do something, either a swing or something special with movement to get more veteran players at 9. And to just sit there at 9 and take the biggest guy available is personally disappointing to me. My biggest question with this is what's next, right? Because Zach Edey alone is not pushing this to a championship level team. He's just not. Could he be a really good player in a role? Sure, he could be. Anybody could be. But my immediate reaction is for the Grizzlies is a little disappointed, looking for what's next, because I think there is going to be some movement throughout the rest of this draft in the couple weeks to come.
All right. I don't know how we lost Ryan. Sorry. There we go. You were talking. You're the only one on the screen. All right. So, yeah, listen, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth, especially in Grizz Twitter. I haven't looked at it yet. I can imagine it's on fire. It's half on fire, and the other side's literally trying to put it out, and then like it's just going to start a new fire, and it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to not be a part of it, but be anonymous as they say. Anonymous as they say these days. Chip, last thoughts on the pick, but also the direction the Grizzlies might go.
Yeah, my phone is blowing up with text, so I'm sure that I'm going to have some interesting text messages from a lot of Grizzlies fans when I look at them. But look, what I would say is just don't overthink this Edey stuff, man. This guy is 7'5" with a 7'11" wingspan and dominated college basketball like few others have. If you just look at what he can do in a role as a rebounder, screener, and inside scorer, he's going to be able to play in the NBA. How high his ceiling is going to be will be determined by what he looks like defensively and how he's able to pass out of double teams and facilitate more on the offensive end. But going forward, I think there's a ton of really good players left. And I think if there's one thing we know, Zach Kleiman will go up and get guys. So as some of these guys like Collier, Connect, Day'Ron Holmes, some of these guys continue to slip, I'll be interested to see if this is the only pick the Grizzlies make tonight, because obviously we know they have 39 and they have plenty of future picks that they could use to go back up and get another guy if they want to do it. So I think we're far from done.
Yeah, I that would be huge if the Grizzlies were somehow going to make some kind of move to get back in. All right, so gentlemen, y'all were amazing tonight. We appreciate that. You literally carried the show. It was just me being here trying to kind of steer the ship. Nate, we still don't know what he did or what he brought to the show. He dressed the nicest, but we still don't know why he's even here. We're just kind of keeping him here to look good, I guess. But gentlemen, y'all are the best. We're gonna go ahead and send you on your way. But hopefully, when you get to Grizz Twitter, it's not on fire. So, gentlemen, we'll see you around. All right,
thanks, fellas.
Nate, just us now, boy. Just us. All right. So obviously, I threw you under the bus a little bit, but Nate, you were here the whole night, just kind of watching a little bit of what we had. So, your thoughts, just overall, if you got to how to put a bow on the Grizzlies and the draft and what that kind of ended up being, and what now the direction maybe they go in the offseason with free agency.
I mean, I'm full of pain and anger that Day'Ron Holmes is not a Memphis Grizzly as of right now. But honestly, I said it when the pick came in. My biggest knock on Edey was that he wasn't Day'Ron Holmes. Like I've just been so big on that guy, and the way I thought he could fit with Memphis. But I am more than prepared to be talking to him. Like I said, part of what happened when I was talking with, I was talking with Chris individually about this, but also there was a whole Twitter exchange, X exchange. Still feel like that sounds too sexual, but a whole exchange there. And my big thing was, I was like, listen, when I watch the highlight reels, I see what I see. His footwork looks better in there. He looks sharper. He looks like he knows what he wants to get to, feels comfortable getting to it. If he can move better than I think he can, that can fit really well. And I'm one that watches matchups. At the end of the day, he dominated in that Purdue UConn game.
For sure.
He did. Yeah. And so he was clearly not on the best team. But as far as those two guys go, he won that matchup. Don't care what you told me. Maybe Klingon is better. Maybe he's better all year. That matchup, Edey was better. So, listen, I'm all in on anyone that's on Memphis. I'm totally with these two guys. Could easily see them trading back in to the end of the first round tonight. That being said, when the pick came in, I was like, free agency is where they're making their moves. They're not going in with – I would be so shocked if they went in with Zach Edey as their starting center.
For sure. All right, last thoughts. Antonio Jones, first of all, thank you for coming on. But a good pickup, in his opinion, is Edey. Who would you rather have at 9? So just looking at here, obviously Khalil Ware just went to the Miami Heat. I had projected Jared McCain from Duke, but instead I guess they go with Ware there. So Ware has been kind of labeled as potentially Chris Bosh light, maybe, if he can kind of figure his stuff out. But who would you have, like, so far that's either left or has been drafted after the Grizzlies? Anybody that you would say, hey, I would rather have that guy?
Day'Ron Holmes. I mean, it's just that it's the same guy every time. I'm a broken record at this point. I just loved what I saw from him. I think whoever gets him is going to get a steal. I mean, I was really surprised at how this broke down completely. I really thought the way this had been discussed, Holland would be there at 9. I don't know why. I just had bought into he's going to be there, and I thought that was going to be the steal in the top 10. But clearly the Pistons thought so as well and went and got him. So I do not hate the pick by any means. I do not hate it at all. I think it has a potential to work really well. Same thing. I don't think that that's their center going into it. But I also didn't think they'd pick at 9 tonight. So they did pick at a multiple of 3. That held true.
I'm not counting. All right. So, Tony Allen, TA is a direct quote about Zach Edey. And Ja is going to make this guy look like a star. Trust me. If Tony Allen says it, he sees it, I'm in. I'm going to have to be talked into it. I have to see how they figure out the spacing because obviously he is a lob threat, and I'm okay with that. The problem is, like, what else can he do? Does he need the ball to be active? How big of a role does he have on this team? There's so many questions to have. I'm just curious if it can be an X factor, and you only need him for 20 minutes a game, and then you can go small if you need to in closing games. And so I could talk myself into it. I'm not ready there. Not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah. I mean, well, I do want to say one thing. Where going to the Heat feels like it's a steal because it's the Heat, doesn't it? Like that sort of feels like, oh, he's going to the Heat. That's a steal because of what they're going to be able to turn him into, right? Did want to say that on that pick since we're still here. But with the Grizzlies, I will say I was just reading a tweet from Sean Coleman, and he made a point that I think is really fair and something that you can lose track of in the heat of the moment. I lost track of in the heat of the moment. I never wanted the Grizz to trade up in this draft. I just didn't. I didn't think it was going to be good asset management to make a really marginal jump in talent, most likely. I just didn't love it. That could end up being wrong. Could totally end up being Klingon is just light years better than Edie. At the same time, I wasn't a big fan of them trading up. And basically, if I had to guess, Charlotte was asking for more than they were willing to give. I would rather them not give it, save those assets to be able to move up or get someone else in free agency, move up later on in a different year. So I do like that part of it.
All right, listen, that's going to be it for the show tonight. It's been fun. Obviously, we've had Luke, but also Kenny on the back end doing the Lord's work of really just kind of being able to put in a lot of what we actually need that you have seen on the screen. And so it's not about really all of us. It's about asset management, if you know what I mean. But it has been our guys on the back end, as well as Chip and Ryan, doing a lot of the work in itself on giving us the information and honestly feeding us with the information to be able to do and use our best knowledge as possible. Because I'm not the biggest draft guy, but I always dig in about a month out and try to get into where I can feel comfortable about it. And so it's always fun. But listen, we'll be back here again. We'll see about next Tuesday. You may or may not have a baby. We don't know yet. But I will say on behalf of Grizz 901, but also Bluff City Media, thank you everybody for tuning in and tuning into the show tonight, as it was a special. But it's also as we look into, honestly, you're going into free agency, then you're going to go to summer league, and then we're going to be off for a while before the Grizzlies come back. So we have a long road ahead till the NBA season gets back. But honestly, shows like these, but also the rest of the shows that are on and in the morning, do me a favor, tune in to the Daily Grind. They're going to be there at 7:30 Central. It's going to be one of the first shows that you're going to see. All these other shows, they're going to happen after that. So why not go get the newest information at 7:30 in the morning right here at Bluff City Media on the YouTube channel. But that's it for Nate, but also our guys on behind the screens, Luke, Kenny. We also have our draft specialist, Ryan and Chip. I'm Daniel Greer. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you everybody for watching and hanging out with us. Be nice and tell your friends.